This was the first organised trip we took on this short holiday. As we said before, it may be best to have a proper look around before committing yourself to a particular company for any type of trip here. This trip went from Albufeira to Tavira, heading eastwards with the first stop at Faro. Not only is Faro the home of the airport which serves the Algarve, but it has a long history and is capital of the region. There is a thriving industrial area on the outskirts, and the old parts have seen much in their long history. Surrounding the old part of the town is plenty of shopping and restaurants with pedestrian streets which, with the nice weather, were pleasant to walk around. The historic quarter, the Cidade Velha, as the Portuguese would call it, is home to some of the town's historic charms. These include the Arco de Vila Gateway, Gothic Cathedral and the Episcopal Palace. We were dropped off by the marina and walked into the historic quarter. Now, interestingly, here we found storks on nests. Apparently, they reside here throughout the year, unlike back in Bulgaria, where they're migratory birds. They have their characteristic large nests, which look quite precarious balanced in high places. They must be able to find plenty of food in the lagoon area. The lagoon lies to the south of the town and is also home to some excellent beaches. There are old walls around the historic quarter which are mostly intact, although there is a large amount of repair and building work going on all around. We went for a walk and looked around and then went back into the cathedral complex. This we paid for as we entered the courtyard. In this space it was peaceful and there were orange trees with fruit still in them. There was at one point a soft splat sound beside me as an overripe orange fell from a tree and landed beside me. There were things around the courtyard to see, but we didn't linger for too long before we went into the old cathedral, in which there were more workmen doing various jobs. The upkeep of these old buildings must be quite expensive too. There were plenty of ornate and intricate carvings and decorative spaces inside, typical of Portugal and the neighbouring Spain. A lot of work and money is spent on making their churches rich in such craftsmanship. We climbed up some stairs which led up through a museum, and eventually we went up to the bells at the top of the tower. They are hung in an area which is exposed and weathered. From here we could see across the rooftops and out over the lagoon. The climb up the stairs was not the safest, with the condition of the steps and people squeezing past each other, but the experience was well worth it. From Faro, we were back on the bus for the next part of the excursion. It was not too far to go before we reached our next stop. Pardon me if my pronunciation is not very good. The next stop was a town called Algarve. This town is known for its municipal market. Again, there is of course a marina, and the coach parked up on the road along by the sea wall. This is a very pleasant walk along to the market, and so we strolled along to find this market still very busy, even though some parts sold fish. It is divided into two sections, so the fish didn't overpower the food, such as vegetables and sweet products made from figs and carob beans. There really were wonders in the market. Mariana even found some large pink tomatoes, a bit like the ones that she uses in Bulgaria. And the colours of the sweets, the types of vegetables, it was all wondrous, all laid out, all local produce. The women who were here had made stuff at home, and it was old traditional Portuguese products. There were, after all, many stalls here, and all these local people come here to sell their home produce or produce that they have produced themselves, and also people come to buy their favourite delicacies. It took some time to get around the market, and when we eventually came back out, we went to explore the town itself. Many old and winding streets with normal businesses and parked cars. You would need to be a local to know exactly where you are in the maze we explored. Looking into the history of the town, it goes back to prehistory. Although written records only go back to the 14th century, at that time it would appear to have been called Olham. The coastal area is protected now as an eco area and nature park. This was established in 1987 as the Nature Park Rio Formosa, which allows protection of the animal and plant life in the locality. The economy is, naturally enough, as you would expect, based upon fishing and tourism. Mostly this is sardines, and these are caught by the fishermen and processed in the local factories. It was settled mainly by fishermen and grew rapidly in the 17th century when it was protected by a fort from corsairs. It was here that Mariana and I had time to sit by the water and relax with some lunch and watch the boats. After this, it was time to get back on the coach and head off towards the east for our last destination of the trip, Tavira. This is on a section of coast called the Costa do Acantilado. This town, we're told, dates back to the Bronze Age and was in fact one of the first Phoenician settlements in this part of Europe, known to the Romans as Balsa. There is a medieval bridge here that crosses the river, which was previously thought to have been Roman, but is most likely Moorish. The Moors occupied the area between the 8th and 13th centuries, along with much of the Iberian Peninsula. There is a castle dating back to the Moors, and apparently they had built 2 mosques here, but I believe they've now disappeared. There was plenty of violence and bloodshed here on the Algarve, and the Portuguese were able to fight free of the Moors here in 1242, after several knights were killed during a ceasefire, causing retaliation. Not much seems to change in human terms, or the peace a cycle of human activity. Along the Algarve, in the places we have visited, there was in 1755 huge amounts of damage caused by what is called the Lisbon earthquake, which is thought to have been around 8.5 to 9 magnitude. Great amounts of damage were done in the region, and here in Tavira most of the buildings were destroyed. The Algarve was closer to the epicenter than Lisbon. Now of course this damage has been corrected with rebuilding work, and of course the Algarve is host to many golf courses where the climate is favourable. These days, due to many reasons, the fishing industry is in decline, partly because the tuna migration has changed, but also the numbers of fish could have dwindled due to overfishing. The river has been silting up, and now tourism is the main industry. In Tavira, the ruins of the old castle stand high above the old town and give a good view of the whole area. After this, we went back to the bus station where our coach was waiting, and we headed back to our hotel near Albufeira.